Shalom, my name is Adam Wasser from Brooklyn, New York. This week's Parasha VaEIRA, in the second book of the Torah, Shemos, we learn that Moshe Rabbeinu is struggling with, will God truly redeem the Jewish people? And are the Jewish people really ready to be redeemed? The Parsha ends with the seventh plague. When we learn Torah, when we look at the Parsha of the week, it is important to take something from it to understand our everyday life. It's not that we should just read it as a history book, as a lesson, but we should read it as something that teaches us about ourselves and the world around us. Once upon a time, unfortunately, back in Europe, in the late 1930s and into the 40s, a man named Hitler, Shemos, came into power. This man decided that the fault of Germany and the redemption of Germany fell on the Jewish people, that the Jewish people were responsible for the fall of Germany in World War I, and Germany will be reborn again with the destruction of the Jewish people. When Hitler, Shemos, looked at the Jewish people, he didn't just look at them as, you are religious, or you are secular, or you come from a family where the father is not Jewish and the mother is Jewish. He looked at Judaism in a religious way of how Torah looks at it. In Torah, we learn that if the mother is Jewish and the father is not Jewish, the child is Jewish, even by the third generation. Hitler said, according to Torah, even if the child was practicing Christianity, they're Jewish. Even if the father was not Jewish, they are Jewish. Even if they were secular, completely secular, no connection to Judaism, even if they hated Judaism, they are Jewish. Hitler Shemos put all the Jewish people in one bundle, as the Torah does, as one people. And he threw them into the gas chambers, and into the ghettos, and into the work camps, and he tried to destroy them. But yet, his idea and his plan came to fruition, but not completely, because many Jewish people survived. Enough Jewish people survived the German plan to make Judaism today a population of 13 million around the world, and strong and growing. I mentioned this tragic part of our Jewish history because in this Parsha, VaEIRA, in the book of Shemos, here the Jewish people are struggling, they are in heartache, they are being persecuted, but yet they are one people, they are united. There were Jewish people, when you get into the Midrash, that were against Moshe Rabbeinu. They said, let's stay in Egypt, let's become Egyptian, let us not play with the game and just go with it, and we will survive. Many Jews were comfortable in this idea. And in fact, in the Plague of Darkness, we learn that more Jews died in the Plague of Darkness than actually left Mitzrayim, actually left Egypt. Because these Jews that were destroyed in the Plague of Darkness, they are Jewish, and their souls are remembered. But if they would have came out of Mitzrayim, they would have ultimately brought the Jewish people to their ultimate destruction, because they never wanted to leave Egypt, and if they would have left, they would have taken the Jews and returned them to Egypt, and they had to be destroyed, unfortunately. What happened in the Holocaust is not to say that the people that died in the Holocaust had to die. Absolutely not. But it shows that the Jewish people are one people. And when something happens to one Jew, it affects the entire nation of the Jewish people. The Jewish people are a family that, when one thing happens, it is a chain reaction. We as people, as a nation of race, under one God and one religion, have a responsibility not only for ourselves and our immediate family, but for 13 million people, called the children of Israel. Moshe Rabbeinu was chosen by God, not because of his looks, not because of the way he spoke, but because of his soul. because how he reacted and looked at the Jewish people as, this is my family, this is who I am, and I will do everything I can to protect them. Even criticize God, even say, God, are you sure? Am I the right person? Are we ready? Moshe Rabbeinu was a great tzaddik, the greatest tzaddik that ever lived, because he could talk to God not in a way of a complete servant that, put it this way. If a king has an advisor, and the advisor says, yes, your majesty, you are absolutely right, and no question about it, even though the king may be wrong, this is a bad advisor, because a good advisor will question their king. They will say, your majesty, are you correct? Is this the right decision? Moshe Rabbeinu was that perfect advisor, because he did not just take God and say, okay, I'm going to do it. No questions asked. He questioned God. And God, even though rebuked Moshe Rabbeinu, loved the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu would question God and even rebuke him. Because that is what a real good advisor is for. The Jewish people in this parsha are getting ready to leave Mitzrayim, but they are struggling. They don't know. Will they be killed off? Will the Egyptians get so mad that they will just destroy the Jewish people because of these plagues? We don't know. But they keep on holding on to some faith. Now, in a scientific situation that we live in today, people will question, did the 10 plagues actually happen? Does God exist? Well, nowadays we find many scientists and all that will try to find out how the Torah relates in a scientific way, and can the 10 plagues actually be a realistic, real situation. And fortunately for everyone, science is not arguing on the 10 plagues. In fact, many reliable scientists will say that, yeah, the 10 plagues are very realistic, because what's going on here, the first plague, the Nile of Egypt, turns to blood. And what do you have after that? You have the frogs, you have the locusts, you have the frogs, you have the disease that kills the animals, you have, and excuse me if I'm not putting this in exact guidelines, but all these things actually lead up to something that's very normal. Because if you have a water that's poisoned, you're going to have animals that die, people that die. You're going to have once the animals die, you're going to have bugs and everything that accumulate. Well, that frogs eat the bugs. And then when the frogs die, because the frogs died after the 7th day of the plague, you're going to have other diseases that come about. So science has shown that this 10 plague issue is very capable and very realistic. And it's not, and some people will say it wasn't blood, but the Nile actually turned red, but it was a poisonous red, because it is a natural occurrence that happens in Africa today. So to say that the 10 plagues never happened because it's not realistic is totally nonsense, because it is very realistic. Also, we have to understand the 10 plagues didn't happen every week. It was actually an adjustment where Moses, would come to Pharaoh, warn Pharaoh, this is going to happen. And then a week would pass until the actual plague would take place. And then the plague would continue for about a week. And then there was another week until, Moshe would come, and then another week. So the whole process of the plague, from God telling Moshe and Moshe warning Pharaoh, it took about a 3-week pattern. Every plague was about 3 weeks from that point. And this is very realistic if you really want to think about how the world works and how famine and disease come around. The Jewish people lived in an area called Goshen. We know it today as the Nile Delta in northern Egypt, which is lower Egypt. And actually this area is considered Israel. Like if you go to the prophecy of Abraham and other prophecies, Israel stretches from the Nile to the Euphrates, and everything between the Nile and the Euphrates is Israel, meaning Goshen is Israel. So you've got to ask the question, the Jewish people never left Israel, they were in Israel. it's a funny thing, and I don't know how to answer that, but one thing we could go by it is if the Jewish people control the land, if they have ownership of the land between the Nile and the Euphrates, then that is actual Israel. Until that point happens, it is only Israel in name, but not in the holiness that it brings. This is questionable. Ultimately, this Parsha, Va'era, is one of the most famous, if not the most famous, Parsha, Bible chapter in the 5 books of Moses. And there's so much to learn in this Parsha, this Bible chapter, that we don't have enough time to talk about it all. But ultimately, if anything we should learn from this chapter, it is that we are one family, and that doesn't matter if you're secular, religious, gay, lesbian, you converted to Buddhism or Christianity, or your father is not Jewish. If you are Jewish, meaning by Torah law you are Jewish, and you are a part of the Jewish people, and what you do and how you live your life and how you treat other people and give charity and so forth reflects not only you but the entire world and the Jewish people. God bless you all, and have a wonderful week ahead. Mashiach now. Amen.